This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers.
If everybody wants to know the single reason why Notre Dame is in the college football playoff semifinal in the Orange Bowl, is because of one guy and one guy only. Tony Simeone is the play-by-play voice of Notre Dame. Just so you know, Tony, not every season is like this. Congratulations. You have sounded fabulous all season long, and it's great to talk with you.
Steve, thanks so much. I've been kind of spreading that message. It's starting to stick a little bit that the missing ingredient might have been my involvement with the radio broadcasts, doing the play-by-play, because suddenly Notre Dame's won their first major bowl game in over 30 years, and it just so happens to be my first year. So it's obviously been a thrill, and I've been associated with the university for a while now. But it's been really fun to see this team kind of reach their full potential here in the third year under Marcus Freeman.
Hey, let me ask you something. What's it like for a guy to come out of Pepperdine, West Coast, and to be involved with something iconic like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. When I first moved out here to South Bend, it was 2016, to be involved with the video production crew with Notre Dame Athletics. And when you just take a job like that, you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into, but you don't really know what it's like until you get on campus and you experience the game day. As you mentioned, I went to Pepperdine, so we had no football program. So I didn't really, I followed college football, obviously, but didn't have a rooting interest. And so now this is my 9th year being associated with Notre Dame. And just to see it every year, see how much it matters, see how much people care, and then to, of course, have it culminate this year in many ways. They had 2 playoff runs before this in the 14 playoff, but this one, quite frankly, feels a little bit different. It's amazing. It's really hard to put into words, and I just feel really lucky, frankly, to get a front row seat for it this season especially.
All right, so let's talk about this team. They had the Northern Illinois game, which I think shocked everybody. And I really felt that after that game, Notre Dame was in a must-win week every week. They couldn't afford a second loss. What was it about the makeup of this team that said, okay, that's it, we're not letting that happen again?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to Marcus Freeman. I'm fortunate enough to get to sit in on his weekly meetings for home games when he talks with the NBC crew. And he was pretty open throughout the year in those meetings and in the public with press conferences throughout the year. Just that they were, did not prepare the way they needed to for Northern Illinois. They maybe believed a little bit too much of the hype people were giving them after that big win at Texas A&M, and maybe they lost sight of what their overarching goal was. And from that moment forward, to your point, they played like every week could be their last if they didn't win, and they were hammering people all season long. So I think it's a testament to him. He's had a couple of losses now in his head coaching career that are head scratchers at home. They lost to Marshall in his first year in a game that they never thought they would lose, and then it happened again this year against NIU. And I've just always admired how introspective he is. Whenever I get to talk to him or he talks in front of the media, there's no really running away from those disappointments. There's full ownership, and he and his staff, I think, really made a point to look within, address any issues that may have led to that loss at home, and make sure that it was truly an aberration. And now you look back, they're 13-1. They just beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. There's only one way to view that game, and it's an aberration that they learned from, as opposed to maybe being a lingering sign of vulnerability. I think that's been totally exercised at this point, and they clearly are the dominant team that they've been every other game except for that one hiccup at home.
Okay, Riley Leonard. Before we get to Riley Leonard, people have talked about the transfers, and Notre Dame has been now more open to transfers. How important, though, was the last offseason for Marcus Freeman and his staff to retain key players, a Xavier Watts, among others, that they were able to retain the foundation and then add in a couple of transfers.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Xavier Watts, in my opinion, obviously I see him every week, but it's not the best safety in the country, certainly one of them. To keep him, he's a guy that could have gone to the NFL. That's huge. Riley Mills, who's out for this game, and the rest of the playoffs, got injured in the opening round against Indiana. He's a guy that easily could have gone to the NFL, a captain on the defensive line that came back. Howard Cross, who will be available despite being kind of banged up late in the year. He's a future pro that's on the defensive line that could have gone. Jack Kaiser, the sixth-year captain and linebacker that easily can move on to the next stage. These are all on the defensive side of the ball, guys that they brought back, and it's a huge reason why this defense is one of the best in the country. So I think you're right. They injected a ton of skill and veteran skill at that across the board on this roster, but those in particular, four key guys coming back that could have left, Cross, Mills, Kaiser, and Watts, are a huge reason why they're here today. It's hard to imagine them making the semifinal without those four guys.
No question about that. When I look at Riley Leonard, Hartman came in. He was going to be the whole thing, and it turned out okay for him. Leonard comes in from Duke. What has he added that's made a difference in this offense, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's obviously the running ability that sets him apart from a lot of quarterbacks, right? In the Sugar Bowl, he ran it 14 times for 80 yards. That's just a huge weapon to have in your offensive attack. When the quarterback's an option to run, if you can ask any defensive coordinator, it's just going to make your life more difficult. So, he's their second leading rusher this year behind Jeremiah Love, who's a little banged up coming into this game. And then as the year has gone along, in the passing game, I just think he and offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock have figured out what works best for them. He missed the spring because he was coming back from injury last year. So it took him a while to just get up to speed, I think. That's why you saw the hiccup against Northern Illinois. I think, in hearing from Mike Denbrock and him throughout the year, they've gotten more comfortable as the season has gone along, and they've just figured out what play calls, what passing attack works best for them, so that as you've seen the season progress, he's now up to 67% completion rate. They're not really trying to force the ball downfield unless it's there. They're taking what's given to him. Only 6 picks. I think he deserves a ton of credit for protecting the football that way. I think he's maybe fumbled once. I don't think they lost it. I have to double check on the stats there. But as a quarterback, to have as much pressure around him, the way he's been able to run it and protect the ball, throw it better really with every passing week and not give it away, that's how he's improved throughout the year. I think the play calling, he and Mike Denbrock in unison have found a really good kind of system to work through here in the back half of the season.
All right, the two running backs. Penn State has a dynamic duo, and Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen that are both over 1,000 yards. What's made Love and Price work so well together back there?
Yeah, I think this is going to be such a fun game, and I hope Jeremiah Love is close to full strength. I don't know where he's going to be, but I think that Penn State is the first team that Notre Dame's going to see this year that has a case that they have just as dynamic of a backfield 1-2 punch as Notre Dame does. Jadarian Price came in a couple years ago. This is his third year, and he was a really exciting back. Hurt his Achilles, so he missed his first season in 2022. And then last year backed up Audric Estime, who, of course, is with the Broncos now this year in the NFL. And I think Jadarian Price is the kind of back that could easily be this team's number one back, if not for Jeremiah Love, who's now a sophomore and was just incredible. I'm not sure how many Penn State fans have seen the highlights, but he's got some spectacular hurdles throughout the year where he's just leaping over defensive backs in a way that, quite frankly, Notre Dame fans haven't seen from running back maybe ever. I mean, this is an athlete really unlike anything we've seen in a long time in South Bend. He set a record for consecutive touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in a game by a back at Notre Dame. He scored one in all of the first 13 games. The only game he has not scored a touchdown yet in this year was the most recent one against the Sugar Bowl, and he kind of banged up his knee Anihi also banged up against USC at the end of the regular season. So, listen, I hope he's in a position where he can get on the field and play. There's no, he's available. There's no official word on necessarily his status or percentage. I think it's unlikely you're going to see 100% of Jeremiah Love at this point in the season just because of the wear and tear and having to leave multiple games with a lower body injury. But that said, when he and Price are going at the same time, they really are dynamic. They can both be big home run hitters, and they can also put their head down and take on contact. They look different physically, Steve, but they really do run similarly in the sense that when they hit the hole, they hit it with velocity.
Yeah, and so impressed by both of them, especially with that big offensive line. I got to ask about the lacrosse player. What is his presence meant that he has played and won a national championship, and how that can translate to the rest of the team because he's lived it while the rest of them have not?
Yeah, I think it's something Marcus Freeman has pointed out and really embraces. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that might be squirmish about their star receiver playing another sport in the spring where you obviously risk injury and certainly are not maybe getting the rest and recovery that the rest of your team is getting during that time as well. But Jordan Faison scored 22 goals. He was the fifth leading goal scorer on what's now a two-time defending national championship lacrosse team. And Marcus Freeman looks at that as you mentioned, great experience, of course, to play and be in big games and be in locker rooms where you're having to go through trials and tribulations. But it's just a testament to his athleticism as well, and he doesn't want to limit that in any way. And really, Jordan Faison was, I think he was banged up early in the year, wasn't quite the guy we saw at the end of last year, early this year. But here in the playoffs, he's been their best receiver. He's got 11 catches, over 130 yards in the two games combined. He is the difference maker in the passing game, the guy that can kind of break it open over the top. And yeah, I think there's no doubt that lacrosse experience is an absolute asset for him. And if he is able to get free in this game, it just totally changes their offense to have a dynamic threat like him running free down in the secondary.
That's one thing about this grind is that both teams, you mentioned Love, people have talked about Abdul Carter, but guys will get banged up in this thing. Riley Mills is out. Howard Cross got banged up. Love got banged up. How tough is it tests your depth, but how tough is the grind, in your opinion, now after seeing a couple of games like this?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of the new element we're all learning about in this 12-team playoff. I think about, frankly, like the NBA playoffs every year. You get there and it seems like all the stars or a lot of stars are always out. NFL, you see with the grind of the season. This is just a new element to it. So like you said, it tests every team's depth. And I think that what I've been most impressed by with Notre Dame is they haven't used it as an excuse. I mean, Notre Dame's probably down 4 of their top 6 or 7 defensive players going into the Georgia game. And that's the toughest opponent they've played all year. And their defense looked phenomenal. They didn't appear to really lose a beat. That's a testament to them not kind of giving in to what they easily could. And I think that the grind of this season, you're going to maybe see as the years go along in this 12-team format, you're going to have to maybe get creative with how you utilize your depth throughout the regular season. Fortunately, Notre Dame's been able to backfill some of these positions, but I do wonder if you'll see people manage snap counts differently as the years go along, because I think, Penn State, if they go all the way, you'll play a 17-game season. Right. And this is a team or a sport that, in some instances, you're playing a 12-game season in years past. So there's going to have to be an adjustment made, and especially this quick turnaround. Everyone's made a big deal about Notre Dame having 7 days as opposed to 9, but it's just tough this time of year when you're playing your most physical, biggest games of the season to turn it around this quickly for game 14 going on 15. It'll be a test, and I think you're going to have to rely on your adrenaline a lot in games like this.
The giveaway takeaway thing's big. It's plus 18, 31 takeaways, 158 points off of takeaways. I mean, obviously, it's not like I don't personally know Al Golden. I still get Christmas cards from him. I'm not kidding.
Did you get one this year? You still got one this year?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. No, he's the best. I think so highly of Al. But let me ask you what his philosophy in conjunction with the talent has meant.
Yeah, I mean, Al Golden is unbelievable. You obviously know him better than I do on a personal level. But the way, he speaks about this place, he wanted to come work with Marcus Freeman. And he's been with Marcus Freeman as a DC every year he's been the head coach. And they do, especially here in years two and three. But it's definitely started with year one and just really manifested itself in year 2 and year 3. They've really prioritized taking away the ball, like you said. And when they take it away, they want to go score, too. You mentioned the points off turnovers. If they're not taking it to the end zone themselves, they're setting the offense up in a great position. And he's absolutely maximized. You mentioned Xavier Watts. I think a lot of that, Al Golden's philosophy has helped him shine in the secondary. He, of course, is not going to take that credit. He's always going to defer the credit to the players on the field and the leaders like Watts and Kaiser. But there's no doubt that he's had a massive impact. His experience at all levels. Of course, he came from the Bengals after their Super Bowl run. I think that obviously goes a long way with a bunch of college-age students that are hoping to play at that level, that he can coach them in a way that will set them up for the next stage of their career. So it's been so fun to watch what they do on the defensive side of the ball. I think it was last year they were the number 1 red zone defense. This year they're just remarkable, taking the ball away more than anybody else. When they're at their best, they're flying around and they are taking the ball away. And I think they're going to need to do that, obviously, in this game against Penn State to have the impact they want to tilt the game.
And the special teams part, I think I've got 6 block kicks on this team. Young has 3 of them. The kickoff return by the Marshall transfer Harrison, which was critical in the Georgia game. What have special teams meant to the formula with which Marcus Freeman plays?
Yeah, it's my favorite part, actually, about Marcus Freeman that maybe doesn't get enough attention. But all 3 years, his special teams have been, I think, incredible. So Brian Mason was his coordinator in his first year. They were so good on special teams that got him a job at the Indianapolis Colts. And now Marty Biagi's in as the special teams coach. The only area they struggled in special teams this year was field goal kicking at times, and Mitch Jeter has come on really strong here at the end of the year to at least apparently quell any of those concerns. But the fakes that they've run this season have been remarkable. I mean, you saw the one in the Georgia game where they take the special teams unit on, they run them all off legally, bring the offense on because they never touched the ball over center. It was so deceptive that you've got the Georgia coaching staff claiming it was an illegal substitution, but it wasn't because they're that dialed in on the rule book. They've run multiple fakes this year where they've brought out a former quarterback in Tyler Buckner, who transferred to Alabama, then transferred back as a wide receiver. He wears the same number as one of the holders, and so when he comes on the field, to take a snap, sometimes he's thrown out of a fake formation or run. I mean, what they've thought of on some of these fakes is just unbelievable. And Marcus Freeman has called them from inside his own 30 on 4th and 7, for instance.
Right.
So there is just no part of the game that he's unwilling to take that chance. If he thinks that they're in a position to exploit something, they'll do it. He's been aggressive on 4th down in the same way. And that's what, to me, has been so impressive watching him in year 3. I think the special teams aggressiveness, the 4th down aggressiveness, that is what has really stood out to me in his evolution as a coach. And it's just amazing to watch that in real time, see someone kind of mature into the job in a way that is just, it's unbelievable that a guy under 40 years old is doing this in his first head coaching stint at this level. It's really fun to watch.
It's going to be a terrific game. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you. And I'll see you on Thursday night over at the Orange Bowl. We'll be stuck in the corner. Enjoy it.
Can't wait to see you as well, and we'll have the binoculars ready, no doubt.
No question. Tony, absolute pleasure. You're pro's pro. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We'll see you down there.
You bet.